everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Marin Humane's Zoom webinar chat about ending shelter in place and how it may affect your dog. I'm Virginia Granger, the Shelter Behavior Manager, and with me is
Jane Ayton, the Behavior and Training Canine Volunteer Coordinator.
Perfect. So as you can see, we've titled this webinar, Wait, You're Leaving Me? Helping Your Dog Adjust to Life After Shelter in Place is Lifted. Little bit more about us. Like I said, I'm Virginia Granger. I have been involved in dog training rescue since I don't know when, since I was born. But I joined Marin Humane in 2001 as a volunteer and have worn a whole bunch of hats since then, and am now the shelter behavior manager, which means I do evaluations, and I have a very big involvement mostly on the shelter side of the dogs. We also offer a lot of training at the shelter. We offer consultations, things like that. So it's a really cool shelter, and we have a lot of things to offer. And Jane is going to talk a little bit more about herself.
All right, like I said, I'm Jane Ayton. I work with all of the volunteers that work with dogs in a behavior and training capacity. So both the volunteers that walk the dogs in the shelter and also the behavior consultation volunteers and the dog training volunteers. I've been in the shelter world for a couple of years now, and I've worked at a few different shelters, both as a staff member and a volunteer. And I'm excited to talk about how to keep everything pretty stress-free between you and your dog as you transition back to your normal routine.
Great. Okay,
all right.
Jane, this one's you.
So why bother? So I'm guessing if you click this link to watch this video, you hopefully know why it's important to worry about this kind of stuff. But let's just kind of put it into an even bigger perspective. Your dog has been living its best life over the last few months. Maybe you've been stressed out and you're like a little cooped up, but your dog is like, oh my gosh, I'm always at home, and now my human's at home, and this is fabulous. And we go on like 3 walks a day, and my human has started training me, and sometimes we hang out in the backyard just because, and I chase the squirrels, and it's amazing. My life is so great. So that's probably about to end kind of soon. You're probably going back to work. And if you were to just one day leave, go back to work, be gone for 8 or more hours, your dog would be like, what the heck happened? This stinks. I'm alone. I'm really stressed out. I can't sleep. Like, where did my human go? And it's the way I think of it is like when you think back to when you were in school and you were taking a math class, you didn't come back the first day and jump right into where you left off. You always had a week or so of some refresher, kind of what you did last semester or last school year. So let's not force our dogs to just jump right back into calculus. Let's give them a little warm up right now. All right, so as you can see, a tired dog is a good dog. If you've adopted a dog from a shelter or ever been to a training class, you've probably heard of this concept. Dogs wake up with a set amount of energy. Some dogs are more high energy, some dogs are lower energy. It kind of depends on breed and size and a whole bunch of stuff, and age, absolutely. But dogs have energy, and they're going to need to burn that energy one way or another. So as a human, you have 2 options kind of. You can help your dog burn their energy by taking them on a walk, playing tug in the backyard, playing some fetch, just doing some kind of activity to tire them out. Or you can just let your dog figure out how it wants to burn its own energy. And let me tell you, dogs get creative. They chew on your shoes. They rip up toilet paper, which is a hot commodity right now. They will chew on your TV remote until it doesn't have buttons anymore. So either way, your dog will end up being tired. But how you want that to look is up to you as their guardian.
Right, and I love this. These 2 photos Jane has found. One is the dog who's been appropriately exercised, and the other one is the dog who chose his own exercise. You'll notice they're both still sleeping and tired, but there's probably one that you'd rather have come home to. So one of the things we love to talk about as trainers is food puzzles. And we use food puzzles all the time in the shelters because, you know, we need to enrich the dogs at the shelters, but you also need to enrich the dog in your home. So food puzzles are just this great way of using mental energy that is just as tiring as the physical energy. And to go back to that math example that Jane gave earlier, you know, when you come home from school, whether it's college or grad school or elementary school, there are two things: you're starving and you're tired. So, you know, mental stimulation is tiring for all beings, and it's a really good way to burn off some of that energy store that your dog wakes up with. So, food puzzles are an appropriate outlet for a dog when they're home alone and they get a treat for being home alone. So you want to start easy and you want to start now. You want your dog to know what to do with the food puzzles before they're home alone and stressed. So here's the thing: some dogs will interact with food puzzles great when you're home, but then when you leave, they don't touch them. So you want to kind of get a feel for what puzzles they're going to work with and play with. And we're going to talk a lot more about puzzles on the next slide. You want to think about your dog, what they like, and go from there. And in the email we sent you, you're going to see some instructions for making a snuffle mat and some more food puzzle ideas, which are coming up on this next slide. So from simple to complicated, we have a bunch of food puzzles here. So we have on the top left the egg carton, super easy, super simple. Throw some of their kibble in an egg carton and just start with it open, and then you would gradually close the egg carton. Sometimes this one's a cool egg carton because it has holes in the top. So even if you close it, your dog will smell the food. And then you could make it complicated as hard as you need to. Throw some painter's tape on there or something. You really want to supervise your dogs. It's probably not gonna, you know, get you in too much trouble if they chew up some cardboard, but you want to know if they're going to ingest that whole thing. So be a little careful with that. Kongs, these are like a big favorite in my house. I feed all my dogs their breakfast in Kongs. I have 4 dogs. I have 80 Kongs. I know I'm a little crazy. I can prepare 20 meals ahead of time for my dogs. There's Albie. I can prepare 20 meals ahead of time for my dogs in their Kongs, and I freeze them. Yes, I have a big freezer. But Kongs are a really good tool. They are generally pretty indestructible. Again, test your dog with them for a while first. If you're going to leave your dogs with things like these food toys and puzzles, you're going to want to make sure if you're in a multi-dog household that they're not going to fight over these things, or you would separate them or give them to them in crates, whatever. But there will be some management if you are in a multi-dog household. My dogs get fed their Kongs in their crates. They don't really guard them from each other, but it just works out better if they're separated. I make a big slurry of food, so it's their kibble, their dry food. It's a mix of canned food and then a rehydrated food, so it's like a slushy almost. And then I stuff the Kongs. Any medication that my dogs get put in the Kongs, and then it gets frozen. So that just system that works out really good for me. On the right there, you see our little poodle guy with the muffin tin, another super easy food toy, and a good one because the muffin tin's probably relatively sturdy. You can see they've put tennis balls in each of the muffin tin spaces. There's probably food under them, so the dog has to remove the tennis ball to get to the food. Some dogs will find that really enriching, right? Oh my God, I just got 8 new tennis balls. That's awesome. And you don't have to use tennis balls. Some people use paper cups. Some people use toys. So you can use anything you want. It's just an idea of teaching your dog to interact with something, use their brain, figure out the toy. And there are a bunch of these types of toys available online that are made just for dogs. Nina Otten, I think is the name of the person. If you go on Amazon and you search for dog food puzzles, you'll find all kinds of them. And there's from, you know, the super complicated to the really easy. On the bottom left there, you see our white dog. I think he's like a little schnauzer. This is a really fun one. And this is probably a little harder than we think, because the dog, what they've done is they put toilet paper rolls in a shoebox and then they put the food in there. So some dogs might just pick up the whole box and shake it and then the food goes everywhere. This dog's actually being really neat and organized about it. He's taking out each toilet paper roll and then there's food in there and he's probably getting the food out. I really like that they put down a yoga mat so that the box isn't slipping around and the dog has good footing. And you can see, this is such a great photo because you can see he's taken out a single toilet paper roll and then he's probably going to drop it like he's dropped these other ones. And then he's going to reach in there and get his food. And this is, you know, it might keep him busy for 10 minutes, but it's 10 minutes. I'm going to skip over the German Shepherds there and go to the snuffle mat. That's what we were talking about earlier. You can make these on your own. I suggest making it so you can throw it in the washing machine. And you just put their food in there and you kind of like, you know, rub it down so that the food's in between all the pieces of felt. So the dog has to really sniff it out. And it's called a snuffle mat because the dogs kind of snuffle in there. It's really fun and enriching for the dog. It uses all of these food puzzles are great for dogs because one of the main things that dogs do is hunt, and we've taken hunting completely away from them by throwing their food in a bowl. And so all of these exercises, you know, feed into that hunting instinct, number one. Number two, they're using their noses, they're using their brains, they're using their paws, they're using their mouths. And these are all just great exercises that use all the senses that the dog likes to use. In the middle, we have the middle bottom with the German Shepherds. We have probably one of the most complicated ones on this screen. And this is one you can build at home. They have clear plastic, those are plastic bottles that they've just drilled holes in. And they put them on a dowel and they put some kibble in there. And then the dogs learn eventually to spin them. In the beginning, you might have to make it easy. You might have to help the dog. You might have to teach them to spin them. You can see that these two dogs clearly share their food okay. I'm going to guess that the person, you know, knows this and they're not worried about it. But with any of these devices, you're going to want to teach them to your dog when you're home, because the first time, if you throw down a Kong or an egg carton or the shoebox with the toilet paper rolls, your dog might look at it and go, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? So you want to kind of help them out and teach them, and then they'll learn to do it on their own and have a good time with it. Next page. All right, Jane,
All right.
you're up.
So low-key arrivals and departures. So basically this means we don't want you making a big deal about coming and going from the house. So for example, I used to be one of these people when I would leave for the day, I would say to my dog, okay, I'm going to miss you so much. I really wish I didn't have to leave you at home. I wish I could take you everywhere with me. Oh, I love you. And, you know, going on and on, giving him a smooch, maybe some pets, making a huge deal. And then when I come home and he's all excited, he's barking at the door, like you just heard his barking now. And he's jumping up on me and I pick him up and I hold him and I let him lick my face and I say, oh my gosh, I miss you. I was thinking about you all day. Blah, blah. Make a huge deal of it. That doesn't help your dog in any way. What you need to do is keep it really low key, because when you make a big deal out of coming and going, it's just reinforcing to the dog that your life kind of sucks without me. Your life is pretty boring when I'm not there, and it's way more exciting when I come home, and it's really, really bad when I leave. And we don't want your dog to think that. We want to think life is good when my human's here, but it's okay when my human's not here. And so if we can avoid that whole like doorway exuberance, then that'll help a bunch. So what I personally like to do is when I'm getting ready to leave, I, you know, put my socks on. That's when my dog knows I'm probably going to be gone for a while, is socks. I pick up my bag and I walk into the laundry room. I usually say the same thing to my dog when I'm leaving, so he knows I'm going to be gone for a while. That's not a necessary thing. That's just something that I've found helps my personal dog. And then when I come home, I'm very mellow. He still gets really excited, but he doesn't jump up on me anymore. I come in, I open, I walk away from the door, I set down my bag in its place, take my shoes off, and then we say hello to each other. And that obviously we love each other and miss each other, but it's very mellow.
Awesome.
All right. And so one really important thing that this is probably the most important aside from food puzzles that you're going to want to work on in the time until you go back to your full regular schedule is increase your time out of the house. So you've probably already been doing the first two things in a modified way. You've probably been leaving here and there to do your little errands, grab a cup of coffee, maybe like do a quick walk around the block, or going grocery shopping. But we really want you, so say you have a family, it's you and your partner and your children, we want everyone to be gone. So take the family out for a walk around the block without the dog. Go to the grocery store as a family. Maybe one person goes into the grocery store and the rest of you sit in the car. And I don't know if your kids like podcasts. I do. Probably not, but you can find something to do just to take a little time. You can say, hey, let's go over to a friend's house and we'll all sit in our camp chairs 6 feet away from each other and just chat and hang out. Maybe you can go for a picnic as a family. You know, pack up a little lunch, make a day out of it. Or even just go on a drive somewhere scenic. If you live somewhere hilly with a lot of beautiful redwood trees, go do that. You can have the windows down and breathe some fresh air outside of your home. Also, you can go hiking. I know we all love hiking. Well, maybe I love hiking with my dog, but it'll be more beneficial for your dog in the long run if you go hiking without your dog, because that's a good chunk of time where your dog has gotten used to being alone. And then all of that kind of incrementally increasing your time out of the house before you go back to a full day of work where your dog's alone. So what's really important about all of this is that you set it up like you're really truly leaving the house, even if you're going to go on a walk around the block. So make sure you put on your socks, which is my thing that my dog knows. Grab your bag, grab your keys, jingle them, open the garage door, close. Even if you can do something where it requires turning on your car, driving it out of the garage if it's in a garage, closing the garage door, and then driving away. That way your dog hears the noises that it knows, oh, this means my human is like really going away. She's not just hiding in the backyard or like, you know, camping out in the side yard trying to pull one over on me. If you can really do stuff to make your dog think that, okay, I'm alone, I need to just kind of chill out, that's best.
Great. And then I love this graph. Jane does really good graphs because you can see the arrow, like it goes up and it gets wider. And this is the idea: start tiny and get bigger and longer until you work up to that day. So our idea here is that you can have some homework, right? So you know you're going to be going back to work, probably out of the house. And I know that a lot of people are probably going to still be working in the house, but you are eventually going to be leaving your dog alone. So walk around the block without your dog. This, you know, even if it's walk down 4 houses and come home if you're really worried about what your dog's going to do. Go for a short drive. This is really important because the things you do when you go to work are the things that are going to trigger your dog to know they're alone. If you drive to work, get out the car. If you bike to work, get out the bike. If you walk to work, just take a walk, but make it seem like it's gonna seem when things are back to normal, whenever that happens. Introduce your dog to those food puzzles. Often dogs need time to learn these things, just like us. The Kongs, I often start out really simple with the Kongs and then progress to freezing them. You know, I even in the beginning, when a dog is first learning them, I freeze them, I take them out of the freezer and I microwave them for a few seconds before I give them to the dog in the beginning. So they really get the smell and they're a little easier. If they're too hard, some dogs just won't do the puzzle. So you have to experiment with your puzzles. Think about what your routine is going to look like and then divide it into manageable steps for your dog. So like, you know, I love to use this metaphor of the bicycle, right? We don't all just hop on a bicycle and take a ride. In the beginning, we have a tricycle, which has its own balance. And then we get the training wheels, which are offset a little. So we learn about balance, but we don't fall. You know, so you want your dog to learn about these things and in a successful way. because when you are unsuccessful or they overly stress out, you're going to take more steps backwards than necessary. So go slowly and go successfully. Are you going to use a dog walker or a doggy daycare? Research them now. Find out the ones that are on the way to your work. Check on Nextdoor. Ask your friends for recommendations. Take them there for an hour on a day. In our area, these types of places are beginning to start to open up. So depends on where you are. Are you going to use a dog walker? Call them, meet them, talk to some people who use them. You know, a lot of places to get recommendations for these things, like I said, are Nextdoor. Also, your local vet, your local humane society often has a list. But you want your dog to introduce themselves to these people and these places now, when you are around and you can be home after they've been at the doggy daycare for an hour or with the dog walker for just a half an hour. And even maybe you take a dog walk with that dog walker, right? So you guys walk together the first time. Make it gradual so that it's successful. Are you going to bring your dog to work? Are you lucky enough to work in one of those places where you can bring your dog to work? That's great. Can you visit now when not everybody's there and it's not so busy and you don't have to work? So you can adjust your dog to the space while you're not super busy. Have a safe space for them to hang out under your desk. You can just use an X pen and make your desk itself like a crate. You can bring a crate in, but make your dog comfortable, find a comfortable space for him, see where they like to be, and then introduce them to that environment. Where are they going to go potty when they're there? All of these things that you right now have time to do it now, rather than when you have to jump back into work and you don't have time to do all of this training. So it's always better to do it early, slowly, and successfully. Thank you for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it. You can share this video far and wide. It's free. If you want more, you can check out the email we sent you when you video. We have more, lots of good links on there and information. You can check out our website, marinehumane.org. We would love it if you made a donation if you found this useful. We are a nonprofit animal shelter. When you signed up for this, you were sent an email, like I said, with some useful links and resources. Marin Humane is now offering virtual consultations over Zoom, which is super useful and kind of cool because we can help you out anywhere in the world. And that's kind of new to us and really cool. We are also going to be offering online classes. So if you live in an area where it's a little hard for you to get to a place and take a group class, you can join us online. And you'll be supported by other people in class with their dogs, and you're learning in your own home. So it's actually kind of a cool thing that has come out of sheltering in place. Again, thank you. And we hope you are successful and start teaching your dog to be home alone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.